Hello and welcome to a Bergkamp Wonderland, an Arsenal podcast. I'm Gimli, and tonight my guests are... First up, he's just a fat ball of hair and anger. It's Danny the GFP.
£39 fucking pounds for my purple membership registration. £39! That wouldn't even get me 3 seconds of financial consultation from Lord Stan of Cronky.
No, it would get you about 15 minutes with one of Plymouth's finest prostitutes.
Oh, hello, cheeky.
Speaking of which, next up, la 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 wah 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 la. No, I've not got a stutter. It's the Pirates record, and here's the man behind the lols. It's Kris Carpenter.
Very good, very good. I'd like to say good evening to you all, and I'd also like to wish my granddad a very happy 85th birthday tomorrow. He's a lifelong Arsenal supporter, so
Happy birthday, Grandad.
Thank you.
Happy birthday, Grandad Carpenter, if it's the right name.
It is indeed, yes.
Oh, Grandad Carpenter.
Carpenter shares the same name as me as well.
Oh.
Happy days.
And finally, hot town, summer in the city, the keys on his laptop's getting hot and sticky. Loving Spoonful and Tinder Crooner, it's Mr. PR, who are you, Andrew? How are you?
I'm very well. I feel like I've recovered now from my month off from the pod. I had a slight tissue injury. I was in the red zone from my ego. But I'm back and I'm ready to start swinging.
Tissue injury. That sounds ominous. Was it the same kind of tissue injury that a teenager gets?
No, I've been quite regular lately, so...
Did you get your little fella caught in a box of tissues? Is that what you're trying to say?
Those Kleenex ones, when you put your hand in, they can actually be quite abrasive against your hand, or well, depending which one you're putting in.
Did you hear about the bloke who complained to Tesco's because he made love to one of their lasagnas and burnt his winkle? Everybody knows you wait for him to cool down.
And everyone's heard the pizza story, right? About the guy that rings up his Asda and he goes, "Oh, I've bought a pizza and it's got no topping on it." And he goes through about 5 minutes of it, and then he turns it upside down. And he goes, I actually had the pizza up the wrong way around. That was the base. This guy
was a biscuit buttery base.
This guy comes from Merthyr, where I live, so probably the most intelligent one here. Sorry.
Did he have to get someone to help him turn it over?
So it was the other person on the phone actually suggested he turned it over, and just when the penny dropped, it's priceless.
I've got a joke about something like that, but I can't tell it because it's a little bit rude. It's
Oh,
funny
I'm
though.
sure they won't mind.
Oh, because there's been fuck all football. There's this bloke goes into the what's the office where you go and the patent office. That's not where you make your shoes shinies, huh?
Tim?
Yeah, that's it. He goes to the patent office and he hands them over an apple. And he goes, "You can't patent that, sir, that's an apple." And then he says, "Take a bite." He takes a bite and he went, "Fucking hell, taste of orange." He goes, "How did you do that?" He goes, "That's why I'm patenting, that's why I'm making it shiny." And he goes, "What you want to do, you want to make it so it tastes like a lady garden." And he went, "Fucking, that's an idea." Goes away. A month later, he comes in, puts the apple down on the patent clerk's desk and goes, "Take a bite." The bloke went, "Oh, here we go." Took a bite, went, "Oh, that tastes of shit." He went, "Turn it round."
That's quite
terrible.
good.
So
if you're 12 and listening to this, don't tell that at school.
Or do.
That's just the sort of...
back to basics, and we'll start where we normally do, with Danny and some scores.
Oh dear, maybe we should start every podcast with a joke. Talking about jokes.
Maybe not quite such rude ones, but I enjoyed it.
I said Lady Garden. Anyway, right, 25th of October, Stoke City under-21s 0, Arsenal under-21s 3. Iwobi Maitland-Niles, who is quickly becoming one of my favourite players, and old Serge Gnabry. Oh, it's great to see Serge back. We're now second and 2 points behind the leaders, Middlesbrough. 21st of October, this was a humdinger of a game in the Youth Champions League thing, whatever it's called. Anderlecht under-19s 4, Arsenal under-19s 3. Dan Crowley hat-trick, finishing it off with an 85th minute penalty. So we're top of the table there. 17th of October, because we didn't do these for the last few weeks, we've been a bit chaos. Arsenal under-18s 0, some team from N17 2, I'm not talking about that. We're fourth, 4 points behind the leaders, Chavsky, who have got about 600 or 700 players at their disposal, so they're bound to win that league. And then on the 12th of October, it was Arsenal ladies 3, Everton ladies 1, with Nobbs and Carter scoring. And then on the 16th of October, it was Man City ladies 1, Arsenal ladies 0, and we're now fourth, 5 points behind the leaders, Liverpool. But remember, people, the glory days of Arsenal winning everything goes over, because you have teams like Liverpool, Man City, and I think one other team have got all of the monies and they are just giving professional contracts to absolutely every decent player, and Arsenal aren't. So the glory days are fading quickly. That's me done. And Chris, I hear you have got some wonderful news.
Well, yeah. Ooh, sorry.
Hello.
Let's just pop the balls back in. Yeah. Pirates
Looking
news.
forward to this.
Pirates news. So, the last time I left the ship in the hands of you guys, I believe you were letting everyone know that we'd lost a game to King's Tamerton in the cup, which I believe was 7-1.
But
Which one of those losses was that?
They were top of the first
Yes,
division, you fucker, fighting for the title.
They were in the top league, and we 7-1, and it was doom and gloom. I think it's fair to say. So then we went on to Sunday, the 5th of October, and unfortunately didn't get much better. In fact, it kind of all fell in a little bit, to be honest. We got beaten at home by Revelstoke Rangers 8-0. So we joined the likes of Birmingham and Sunderland, who've taken that shelling in the last couple of weeks. But there was good news, because that sort of made my mind up to look at the free transfer market. So I brought in a couple of players, and one of them a striker, Callum Knight, and another midfielder, Brad Smith. And the next week we had the Derby de Plym, which was against the Southway, and lo and behold, a win. No, really, a win. No, I said a win. Okay.
No, it's just not funny when you win.
It's not, is it? It
No.
sort of killed everything. But we won 4-1, and we thoroughly deserved it. And our new lad Callum, he got the first goal in 5 minutes, and then our Spanish wonder kid Dan Amador, he got 2, and Greg Davis got 1, and we won 4-1. So that was obviously a turning point, and I was very happy to show that in the WhatsApp group, so that Jace could choke on his words. That's always a pleasure to upset Jace. And then last week, or 2 weeks ago, as it was, we then played another cup game. We had a bye through the first round. The second round. No, it was the first round. So we had the second round encounter with Walkhampton, who were in a league above us. We won a thriller again. 2 wins on the spin. We won 5-4.
Still think you're lying.
No. Check the website. It's all there in black and white print. And that was an unbelievable game, to be honest. Callum got a hat-trick. So the new striker is bang on form. Greg got one as well, and Aaron Reed got one. So we won that 5-4 in a game that saw their opposition, 5 players saw red. 2 of them in the last 10 minutes on the pitch, and 3 of them after the game had finished. So, we rattled a couple of cages there, all right. And then last week we returned to league action, and unfortunately it wasn't such good news last week. We succumbed to defeat again, I'm afraid. Went down 4-2 to Plymouth Hope in the league, but they're second in the league, and they're fighting it out with Niedercab, that vintage name, for the title. So it was we were very unlucky. We were 3-2 down with 10 to play, and then we got caught on the break for them to score the 4th. So it was a close game. We pretty much battered them the whole second half, but we did manage to put away a penalty this game. We've missed 5 out of 5 previously, but Michael Brown scored a penalty, and Callum again got the other goal. So a 4-2 loss, but onwards and upwards. Despite Matt Lucas throwing me under the bus last week, I'm still confident that we can get the Carpenter Inns trending at some point. So onwards and upwards. We got a game. We haven't got a game this week. We got a week off, so you can keep all your insults to yourself for a week. And we play Smeaton Holmes next Sunday. So I'll fill you in on how we get on in 2 weeks' time.
In all fairness, he was happy to do it, Matt Lucas. It didn't take much persuading.
No, it really didn't, did it?
I said, have you heard of the Barbican Pirates? He went, who? And I went, Barbican Pirates. Oh, yeah, that shower.
Yeah.
Just I don't.
Rude.
Saying that, though, how many other Sunday League clubs can say they have a man of such esteem calling them out?
Yeah, exactly.
See, so there you go.
Well, the Pirates had back-to-back wins. Do you know how many times Arsenal have had back-to-back wins this season? Once.
There you go.
There you go. Wenger out, Carpenter in.
Boom.
You had them quaking.
Quakers, maybe.
No, that's it. Rattled. You had them rattled.
Rattled. There was...
Just imagine you as an old school manager standing on the top try going, "Oh, you number 7, you're gonna get some in a minute. Oh, you rapscallion."
I'm only a year away from starting to tuck my socks into my trousers. I'll be one of them managers.
I bet you, Simon Cowell, you've already got the waistband to your trackies up to your tits.
I'm not that bad. I have got matching training wear though, because I'm that pretentious.
Very nice.
Happy days.
Right. First up on the agenda tonight is Saturday's away win over Sunderland. I was driving from Oxford to Wales at the time, so I only had the radio commentary and MOTD highlights. So for the listeners, give us your thoughts on this one, Andrew.
Well, first thought is, I didn't watch the game until the night time when I was absolutely pissed in a bar in Putney, but I have since watched the full match, so I'm not going to. Any team that comes out to the song Montages and Capulet, or as you might call it, Kris, as it's better known, Dance of the Nights, deserves to lose, quite frankly. I mean, what a load of gobshites. What kind of team comes out to that sort of music? Anyway, I think it was an interesting, going into the fixture, obviously Sunderland came in having been absolutely destroyed the week before. They made a couple of changes. And for us, it was quite interesting because I think, our form was probably lower than Davies's chances of pulling in a nightclub. We were obviously out of all sorts, and we needed to go into the game, and come out with more of a performance. The performance we needed rather than kind of, I guess the result we needed rather than the performance we wanted. And I was relatively impressed with the game. I mean, it was relative to how we've been playing so far this season. I think we needed to go in and just put in an efficient performance. So I saw quite a lot of people before the game complaining about how we had both Arteta and Flamini in midfield. I thought it wasn't necessarily a bad move. It was good to see that we were willing to be, compact and tight in the centre of the field, and then to give more space to the 4 players in front. So I thought, Cazorla obviously playing in the number 10 role. I think, in his first season at Arsenal, he was very much the reason why we got into the Champions League this year. And you could see right from the off in the first 10 minutes, he was, starting to dictate play down the middle, which I think is, going to be incredibly important to the team that Cazorla finds his form again this year, especially in that number 10 role. What with Ozil being out injured now for quite some time, we're going to need the old Santi back, basically starting to pull the strings. And he was finding, Sanchez was making forward runs at the defence, which we haven't seen in a while in an Arsenal shirt. Apart from, we've kind of missed that directness with pace since Walcott's been out. I know Chamberlain does it to some extent, but you get the impression that Chamberlain, when he does get to to the byline, he starts to drift out to pin a cross, whereas Sanchez always drives towards the goal, which is good to see. And he was taking lots of pop shots from deep, as was Cazorla, although Santi was about as composed as Beethoven's Unfinished Sympathy. We had Welbeck shooting from range. We had lots of movement up top, which was interesting to see. It was good to see that they were playing with confidence. And, I think, we obviously got slightly lucky on both goals. Very poor defending from Wes Brown for the first, and an absolute howler from our old friend Agent Mannone up north. But, both composed finishes from Sanchez, which is nice to see. And I think, overall we played relatively well. Defensively, we weren't troubled too much. I think they put a lot of pressure on down the right, especially after Gibbs went off and Bellerin came on. We looked a little bit vulnerable, but overall, given the injury crisis at the club right now and kind of our recent form, I was relatively happy. Can't complain about the result. And it was just one of those where we had to go up there and grind out a result.
That was absolutely a stunning analysis, Andrew. Thank you very much. I'll go over to Kris next, and what I really want to know is, does it worry you that it took 2 Sunderland mistakes to give Arsenal the game?
Doesn't worry me, and props to Andrew. That was as thorough as you could get. I couldn't really add a lot to that, to be honest. But no, I wasn't particularly worried. I thought it was one of those games where I like the fact that we highlighting the issue, that the idea of playing Flamini and Arteta together. It didn't bother me either, because I thought that was the sort of game where we need to have that bit of stability. And I think sometimes we're criticised for playing the same formation, the same players, the same style. And it was the one game where actually the manager did sort of change things a bit and did say, well, let's just sit and try and hit them on the break and catch them out if they are to make mistakes. the one thing with the game is that Sunderland surprised me. To be honest, they came out and they didn't really ever get close to us. They never really pressured us. And I thought first 10, 15 minutes they're going to come out fire in the belly and really try and get the crowd on our side. But they didn't seem to do that. They seemed to give us that little bit of time and space, and gradually we grew into the game. I mean, yes, granted, as you say, the two mistakes that cost them the game overall were howlers. But on the flip side of that, who was the one player that was sort of constantly looking for that mistake? It was Alexis, and that's something again that we've missed a few times where we've not had that player on the shoulder who's looking for that mistake. And there's plenty of goals this season across all leagues in Europe where either goalkeepers or defenders have been robbed and players have nipped in. It's good that we've got that sort of killer instinct. And then there was the quote from Arteta in the week where he said about the knife in the mouth or the knife between the teeth, which I particularly like because he does show that killer instinct. And that first finish was just divine. The way he sort of dinked it was quality, but there was no revolution in the ball. It's just complete flat as he hit it. It's just real class to be able to do that in that sort of position. So I wasn't really worried. I think some people, we've probably been a bit spoiled over the years, and some people sort of look at the performance, well, the performance wasn't good enough, we weren't this, we weren't that. At the end of the day, you turn up, you take 3 points. We were awful in Anderlecht, but we came away with 3 points. We were average at best at Sunderland, but we came away with 3 points. And at the end of the season, if we finish in 4th, 3rd, 2nd, or, well, that's probably the best we can hope for. But if we finish in those positions, we're not going to look back in October and go, oh, well, we beat Sunderland, but we were shit that day. No one's going to care.
Would you say that was a definition of us winning ugly, Kris?
Probably. I don't know what that makes Anderlecht. Does that make winning hideous? I don't know. It was... It was more of I would call it more of a grinding performance. We still look like a side that's yet to fire, and hopefully this weekend will be the time where everything sort of falls into place and we kick into gear. But it was a grinding performance. I thought Mertesacker was much better this week, and a nod to Monreal. I thought he did very well given the sort of stick he's taken, which has been unfair given the fact he's only played 2 games in that position, and is being forced to, I might add. But no, it was a grinding performance. We did what we needed to do. Yes, we got a bit of luck, but then look at the chances we missed as well. I mean, Cazorla missed 3, so Welbeck had a couple late on as well. So I don't think it was lucky, and I wouldn't say it was ugly, but we did what we needed to do and sort of got out of dodge.
And one of the other stories of the game, Danny, of course, is going to be Theo Walcott on the bench. He didn't actually play any part in the game, but does it surprise you we didn't see a 20-minute cameo from him?
Well, I think with something like that, you've got to be careful that you don't bring him back too soon, because if you do, for an unimportant game, a lot of players, when you bring them back, you're going to want them to go out there and get a few minutes. But as it's his first game on the bench, I know he played, did he play an hour? Maybe an hour and a bit for the
something like that. I think
for the reserves a couple of weeks ago. So maybe he's just sitting there cheering everyone up, looking like a cheeky chappy that he is. So no, I don't really think they want him to come on. Plus, I think at the end, Sunderland were getting a little bit angry with the way that they had their own players trying to, like Agent Manone, making sure we won the game. So he's still on a bonus payment from Arsenal. So that was just absolutely ridiculous. Both of our goals came from them with their fuck ups. I thought Wes Brown, he had the first touch of a Jimmy Savile lookalike, which wasn't very good, but it's just hilarious seeing. I didn't know who did the ball to Sanchez for that, but it was Mertesacker cleared it from our almost level with our own penalty spot over the entire of the defence into the halfway line, and then I think he hit it so hard with so much passion on it that he sent old Wes Brown into a spin. And then he got the ball off of him, ran at goal and chipped over the goalie, which was I was watching it on a live stream and it's fantastic. So yeah, it was really nice to see that, and it would have been nice to see Theo maybe come back in a home game. I think we might see him on the bench, come on for maybe 20 minutes against Burnley. Are Burnley known as a kicking team? I don't think they are.
No, I don't think they are.
I think they're quite happy to go down with. I think they're getting close to the record of most number of games from the start of the season without winning. I think they're up to 8 now, and I think the record was QPR of about 13, 14, 15, something like that. But Burnley are rubbish. So I should think he'll play them.
And as everybody knows, on this show we normally do a feature which is called Ozil watch. So, seeing as he's not going to be playing for a large amount of time, I figured that we'd change it to Alexis watch. So,
Oh.
who wants to start us with Alexis watch on his overall performance on the game? What did he really add to our attacking side of the game against them? Andrew?
Well, there was an interesting article on Arsenal.com today. It was by Michael Cox, who's he's quite infamous for his tactical nous and his understanding of football. And one thing he's picked up on, and it was something that I remember when we first signed Sanchez. Lots of people had a meltdown in the summer because Wenger said, when he signed him, Sanchez was here to give us versatility up top and he can play across all positions. And this was at a time, when people were fascinated about having a centre forward. And so one thing that Michael's picked out on is if you look at, obviously not just Sunderland, but this season, what Sanchez has given us is if you look against Palace, he started off on the right. If you look against Chelsea, he was down the left. Against Sunderland, he very much took a central position. And against Everton, he was, playing centre forward. So I think, obviously versatility is something huge that he gives us. But, if you step back and just look, watch him, the way he drives at teams is, it's very much, as I mentioned earlier, something we haven't had since, Walcott was last fit. He genuinely frightens defenders just by running straight at them. And that's a quality which, a lot of top players don't have these days. They look to, try and skim people with pace to the side, or they try and, step over past them. Sanchez it's like a game of chicken with him. He just runs at them. He also, he hurries very high up the pitch. So, he's constantly pressing. And I think that's probably down from his days at Barcelona. That's something that they do very well as a team. And I don't think Arsenal actually do. I don't think we have any tactics whereby as a team we press high up the field. And so I think, apart from maybe Rosicky, but Sanchez actually gives us that to the game. So you can see, a lot of, obviously we got two goals from the mistakes on the weekend. But, we force teams to make these sorts of errors when we press high up the pitch. It's just natural. It happens. So I think, if you look at that, they're both, they're huge assets. I think sometimes, on the flip side, his passing isn't always the freshest. I don't think he necessarily picks out, the right pass or the most intelligent pass every time. And sometimes when we do attack and we try and counter-attack, we do, sometimes lose the ball quite cheaply from Sanchez. But I think overall that just the sheer pace he adds us, his intelligence, his movement, his dribbling skills, it makes defenders shit themselves when you see this kind of player run at you. And so I think that edge and having that kind of that third dimension, it just defenders are so concentrated, so they're concentrating so hard on trying to man mark him. It also you got to remember it was going to bring players out of position, so it makes space for other players to move into. And I think that's certainly you can see that with Welbeck, who's moving behind defenders. I think so. I'm very impressed with the way he started so far his Arsenal career, and I think he's going to be a great player for us this season.
Another thing that can be also said of him is his work rate as well, isn't it, Chris? I mean, he is a tremendously hard-working player on the pitch.
He really is, to the point where it sort of almost shows up. Shows up's the wrong word, because I think people sort of forget he's come from a team in Barcelona where their whole style, their whole team are pressing the whole time. Whereas with us, it's not so much the case. We tend to sort of sit back and we tend to let the opposition have the ball, unless we're hitting them on the counter, where obviously then it's just free flowing and back to front. But when you've got a player like that who does make, as Andrew said, he makes defenders panic. He puts them on the back foot, and that was proven twice on Saturday. His sort of energy and his enthusiasm to win the ball, to get on the ball, to make things happen. The other thing I love about him as well is he doesn't seem to get put off when things don't work out. He's not a sort of player that we've seen it many times in the past with certain players we've had here that have done something sort of in a game that's not gone their way, and then they tend to hide for 10, 15 minutes or for the rest of the game in certain circumstances. And that's the one thing with Alexis. He will always sort of show wide, show inside. Wherever he is, he's always on the pitch. He's always an option to go through or play in towards. And I think there's no coincidence that we've started getting more goals and creating more chances when we've had someone like Welbeck through the middle, where he's had that option to pass to or that option to run off of. I think when you've got Giroud there, it doesn't have that pace for him to interact with. When he's got someone like a Welbeck or an Oxlade-Chamberlain, or obviously when Theo comes back, potentially that could fit in nicely as well. It's out and out pace, and he is quite nippy for a guy who's who is completely stacked when it comes to sort of muscular build. You often tend to lose that little yard of pace, but he almost sort of runs. I don't know how to phrase it, but his legs sort of quite close together. He seems to cover an awful lot of ground without really having to break much of a sweat. And whether he's just hyper fit or got incredible genes, I don't know what it is, but it definitely works, and it's proving that we've got that different option. Much like Andrew said, people that were obsessed with getting a centre forward in. And there's a certain team in Liverpool that are finding out that buying a quote unquote named centre forward doesn't always work out particularly well.
That's very true. Danny, is there anything you wanted to add to this before I move on to my next question?
Just that without him, we would be knackered. Just think how bad, what position we would be in the league if it wasn't for him and his continuous energy, and he's just absolutely everything. He is everything that Ozil should have been for the last 18 months.
See, this is a good question. I don't know whether you've got it coming up later, but I did see something come through the Twitter account earlier asking who would we rather have in the team, whether it would be Alexis or Mesut Ozil, and that's a very, very good question. I could have a shot in the dark at who I guess that most of our fans would pick at this moment in time, right or wrongly. But we'll move on to Chamberlain, and Danny, I'll stay with you. Did you know that was his 100th game for Arsenal?
But he's only 12 years old, isn't he? How could he have played 100 games?
Well, that's what it said on the BBC website, son.
Well, glory be. I was going to go and have a look here. It says he's played 95 league games with 10 goals. What a player. It says that Arsenal career is... it's 90 games, 10 goals. Bloody BBC are wrong again.
Have they got that wrong?
Yeah. All competitions, it's 10 goals in 90 games.
They've dropped me in the shit.
Oh, maybe
Bastards.
they mean Premier League. That'd be 9. No, Premier League is 97 games. Oh no, it's not. It's because they're in Division 1. No, 97 league games.
BBC, I will hunt you down. I will hunt you down and you will die.
Yeah, this does say the 27th of September though.
Is he allowed to play now with more than 15 minutes to go on the clock? Do you remember that when the theory was that we bought him and then Southampton sent us a huge bill because we only brought him on after 75 minutes, but we were forgetting injury time.
Oh, vintage.
It's like when Theo first started playing for us. He was only coming on for short. The crowd used to be cheering, "Go on, Theo, Theo," and then he'd come on and do nothing.
Your stats are right, Gim, if you include Southampton. It was his 100th career match. Does that make more sense? So
yes,
that is technically right.
That makes sense. It was completely misworded by them, and I was 100%
Well, how did they put it? Because this says it's 133 games and 20 goals.
So Danny, don't sit there and be fat stato. It is what it is. He's played 100 games, so how's he done?
It says 133 games here.
He's played 12. He played 2 games in 09-10 for Southampton. He played 34 in 10-11 Southampton, and then for Arsenal it's 16, 25, 14, 9.
And all that adds up to 61.
100.
Can we move on? Danny,
Yes.
57% of possession to Arsenal. Did Sunderland give us more of a game than we expected?
Well, I think when they after their slobber locking last week, where they've now decided to play a formation of one. Hold on, how much did I add? 1-9-1. I think I'd take my shoes off for that. I think they just went out there. It's disgraceful that in a home game, after such a whooping last week, that they go and play that kind of formation, where the only player they had with any ambition to try and score a goal was old Fletcher, and he's not exactly been known as the most prolific of players. I was a bit disappointed to see Rodwell, who I thought was a half-decent player, and he was rubbish. I think one of their best players in midfield was ex-Gunnar Sebastian Larsson, who I had big hopes for back in the day. But no, I thought they were rubbish. I thought when they went out for a home draw, which I suppose you maybe want to do against after you've had such a shit result the week before, but then against an Arsenal team that have got hardly any players fit playing in their right positions at the back, that maybe it would have been better to go out there and just play Connor Wickham, Jose Altidore and Fletcher up front all at once, and then who knows what would have happened. But yeah, I think Sunderland are on a bit of a downer at the moment, and I was quite surprised that we beat them with 2 shitty goals.
See, there's many ways to look at it. I mean, Andrew, some thought that this could be a potential banana skin after the 8-0 defeat by Southampton. Are you glad we scraped through this one?
Yeah, I am. I say shitty goals on their behalf. For us, they're both glorious goals by a glorious player. I think it could have been somewhere. I think I said that we're going to get a 3-3 there. I thought it could just be all falling apart. But yeah, the record, like I always say, the record books will show a 2-0 away win.
Yeah,
Nothing more than that.
that's very true. Chris, so this leaves us fifth in the league, 8 points behind Chelsea. I know it's early doors, but where can you see us finishing this year?
Well, I've said all along, and I'll stick with it. I still think we'll finish third, just purely because I think there's only two teams better than us in the league, and one of those in Manchester playing in blue are not exactly pulling up trees at the moment. Sadly, they will only get better. I can't see them getting any worse. I think Southampton and West Ham will sort of natural course will they'll fall away after Christmas. When I say fall away, props to both. In fairness, I mean Alex Song has decided that he fancies being a footballer again for 5 minutes, which is nice. But I can't really see us falling any lower than that third place. I think there's probably going to be a few twists and turns, and I think when we actually hit the right form and actually get on form, we may well rack up 5 or 6 wins on the spin. It seems to be that kind of season. We were talking pre-pod about the sort of the change compared to this time compared to last year, where we were flying high and seemingly in a position where we could potentially go on and win the league, and everybody was upbeat. This year it seems all very quiet. Sort of news is quiet, supporters are quiet, unless we lose, then all of them come out the woodwork. More on that later. So I do still think we'll end up third. I certainly hope we will, but we are going to have to play an awful lot better than this. And one other thing to mention from the Sunderland game, can we please get pundits to learn how to say the word Cazorla? Because if I hear Carzola once more, I'm going to throw my TV out the window.
I had a rant on this about, a couple of months ago, wasn't it? I think it might have been even over the summer. But, it gets on my last nerve as well. And Szczesny.
Oh, God, yeah.
It's not his name, for fuck's sake. If
Nope.
you're being paid to commentate on a match, then you should at least know the fucking player's name.
Have you heard that twat from the Northern Irish twat on BBC commentary on the radio? He cannot get any
Alan
names
Green.
right. No, it's not even their fucking name. His name's pronounced Cazorla. You
And
fucking idiot.
there's also Alan Parry who pronounces
Yep.
Koscielny.
Yeah, why? And also, why do the BBC need to have? Because you have a colour commentator, which is going to be your Robbie Savage, and then you have your other commentator. Why does the other commentator only do half of a half each, and then they swap around after about 22.5 minutes?
Just a radio thing,
Because
I
it's
think.
fucking only the BBC do it because they're fucking bullshit and wasting our money. Stop doing it, and unless you can speak the Queen's English or the Spanish English, says he who has not said Sanya right for the whole time he was at art. Only now do I get
Poor
it right. Yeah, actually, when I write people's questions down, I have to change the W to a V. Otherwise, I say Wenger. Because I'm reading it, I do, but it just really annoys me with the accents. If you could just learn to say the bloody players' names properly, you fucking idiot. It's rude.
It's their job, isn't it?
Yeah, precisely, it's his
That's
job.
a wonderful way to end this segment. This week, we've decided to hand over the topics to our panellists. It's been a fairly slow week, so we've decided to see what they were passionate about and get a bit of a conversation going. To start us off, Chris?
Yeah, I wanted to bring up something with regards to sort of the concerns pretty much all and any Arsenal fans these days, and that's the effect the club has in social media, and sort of the goods and the bads of social media. I'm quite old school still. I still remember the days of CFAX page 302 and having to come home from school to look up results, having to listen, beautifully segued from Danny there, having to listen to radio commentary to get my results and follow the scores along on CFAX on a Saturday afternoon. Once the game was done, it would be sort of either into a pub or you'd meet your mates on the Monday morning at school and you talk about the games and essentially take the piss out of each other depending on the results. Nowadays, it seems that everybody is obviously Twitter is the biggest one. Everyone's got an opinion, whether it be from the work that the guys at AFTV do, which I'm more than happy to compliment them on the work they do. They put a lot of effort into what they do, but my God, they don't have to get some clowns on sometimes. Down to sort of mediums like ourselves, where we'll put out the podcast each week, and we'll get varying degrees of sort of positives, negatives. And you only have to look at the result. I think Anderlecht summed it up perfectly well the other night, where we'd come away from a game where we really didn't deserve really anything. Let's be honest. But yet we got a very late win and a very fortunate win, and yet it still seemed like everyone was sort of holding the razor blades to the neck and loading the revolver, and it was. It's a really sort of strange thing to look at Twitter these days in light of any result. And it's really sort of strange to factor in what people's opinions are, bearing in mind we never used to do this. And I wonder, like on match days, do people still have conversations? You go into a pub now and everyone's sat on their phone. Everyone sort of seems to want to speak to people via the internet rather than speaking in person. So I was just wondering what sort of all of us had, or all individual views on whether we think social media is a good or bad thing, and whether in fact things like the official Arsenal website, players from our club and from other clubs being on social media, does that have a good or bad effect? And would we overall like or prefer it to be back like the old days, or do we think it's a good thing the way it is?
I think one of the things when you look back from say 10 years ago is if you saw a match and you were really pissed off, you had nowhere to really vent your anger, did you?
No.
And nowadays, I mean, you see the way that Arsenal are kind of playing at the moment, and it's just instinct that someone makes a bad pass, Chesney makes an error, any of those things, and it's just like almost second nature to just pick up your phone and go, "Oh fucking hell, Chesney, you fucking clown!"
Yeah.
Right? And you like I watch it like through a match day if I'm sat there. And I've got my phone and I can see, people tweeting me throughout the match day and you go on your timeline. And it's just, you could pretty much get a commentary of the match from all the people there. It's like everyone calling like, oh, Cazorla's done something wrong. Oh, Cazorla, you twat. Cazorla, you this, that and the other. Do you know what I mean? But, I mean, it's like, people just going on there because it's the easiest way to just vent off a little bit of steam. And, I think some people take it so far. I mean, I've seen people on there say that they wished Arsene Wenger was dead and things like that. And social media is a wonderful, wonderful tool that is used 99% in the correct way for people like we interact on this podcast, and we've made some really good friends from doing all of this. And on the other side, I have spoken to some complete retards. But do you know what I mean? It's like it swings and roundabouts. If you didn't have the bad, then I don't think you'd appreciate the good. Let's chuck that out to the others. Danny, you're someone that's quite opinionated on Twitter and isn't afraid to shy away from an argument or a moron. What's your take on this particular subject?
Oh, you say that. I've been on there for nearly 6 years, and I don't think I've ever had a proper argument with anybody. I just find out where they live. I go around there and I shit in their flower beds. They get the message, and then the job's all done.
Poke a turd through their letterbox.
Yeah, you said Twitter is a good tool. I think Twitter is full of tools. I think if you're listening and you're on Twitter, you're 99% of you are fucking morons because you have no idea what the fuck you're going on about. You should have a little. Twitter should do some kind of form that you have to fill out and give your details, and then people can rate you on a scale of 1 to 10 how much you should be listened to. Because most of the people on Twitter would be a rating of whatever the lowest rating is, 1, not listen to it all. You're a fucking idiot who knows fucking nothing. Some of us would be 8 or 9, and I just think there's far too many people that know absolutely fuck all. And I don't know about you lot, I am absolutely sick and fucking tired of Twitter. I mean, the people I follow, I like all of them, and I only follow just under. I always keep it to under 300 people, and then some of the times I'll interact with people I don't know on the podcast account, and then I'll follow them on my own account. Recently, there's been quite a few that I've followed, but I'm so utterly sick and tired. Raj was saying in the WhatsApp group the other day, he's sick and he's bored of Twitter. I'm bored of Twitter. It seems no matter what happens, good, bad, or indifferent, everybody is an expert on it, and I'm bored shitless of it. Because for technical reasons, I didn't use my PC for 2 days, just over 48 hours, and I didn't miss Twitter at all. I just think it's full of idiots who seem to think they know better, and they don't know better because I doubt very much none of us could do a better job than old Mr. Wenger is doing.
See, the thing is, I think it's there's no restrictions on how many followers you can have. So it means the truly moronic can have thousands and thousands of followers in which to spread their dross. And it does seem a lot with Twitter that the gobbiest or the loudest, so to speak, or the more outlandish opinions are the people that have the more followers. And it's like sometimes you just think, and you read people's tweets, you think, "Fuck off, mate. Do you really believe that?
I would
Do you
love
really believe the shit that you talk?"
I would love to see Twitter take away. Why do we have numbers on there at all? Don't show how many followers you've got, don't show how many tweets you've got, and don't show how many people you are following. There you go. There should be an option to do that, and then people would stop saying stuff to try and get followers, because it's fucking bullshit. Anything to do with the numbers, and we all know there's a certain someone who keeps saying shit all the time, and just keeps trying to wind people up so that he can get followers. It's just it stresses me out so much so that I just go days like I recently have without using it. I just get so sick and tired of it. And when it comes up to the transfer window, I'll tell you what, you want to hide all sharp objects from my house, because I will try and fucking end it all.
So the only person that we've not spoken to on this is Andrew. And Andrew, again, you're another one. I mean, you've had quite a high-profile argument with Mo over the last couple of weeks about, things that he's said regarding Arsenal. I mean, what's your view on Twitter?
I mean, trying to obviously make it relevant to football. I think Twitter as a medium for social media, is very helpful in that it allows rapid dissemination of information for fans. So I think that the average football fan or Arsenal fan now is probably a lot more clued up on the club and what's going on behind the scenes. People like Jeff obviously give us as fans. We've learned to crave a lot of information from people like Jeff, people like Tim Payne. There's a lot of knowledgeable Arsenal fans, who are able to share that wealth of knowledge. We see things like live tweeting from AGMs, live tweeting from fan meetings, shareholder meetings, and this is kind of a platform which gives us information which we just simply wouldn't have had before. And so I think we should take the positives from it, and it allows us to, as you mentioned earlier, some people use it as a cathartic release when they're stressed when we lost. Although at the same time, I remember for about 2 weeks after we won the FA Cup, Twitter felt like it was just I don't know, it felt like everyone was on crystal meth, and it was a holiday in the Bahamas for 2 weeks, and you couldn't get enough of it. I think I probably saw more photos of Gunnosaurus than I did pictures of tits when I was a teenager. It was brilliant. Then, as you say, on the flip side, you do get some certain gobshites who use it as a kind of, I guess, as a means to propel their own, or the vice of their own ego, basically. And it's all about the number of followers and kind of the number of times they tweet about the same old bollocks. And you do get people who I feel sometimes almost become caricatures of themselves. So it's a little bit like when you see the Houses of Parliament, you have Prime Minister's questions on a Wednesday, and you can tell that the whips of the Conservative Party have told them to all say one thing, and then the whips of the Labour Party have told them to say the other. And you have that as soon as there's kind of one piece of news which comes out in Arsenal, half the fans take stance on one side, and then another half take stance on the other side. And usually both stances are so far I guess out of tune with reality that if you're a moderate person on Twitter and you have a view about Arsenal, as soon as you tweet that, you're going to get bashed by two different sides, who just assume that you're biased towards the other side. So, for example, if I tweeted, good result for Arsenal today, could have done slightly better. I know that the Wenger out brigade are going to hammer me because they think we were terrible, and then the Wenger in brigade will hammer me for not appreciating the fact that we won. And it's sometimes it can be sapping. I've certainly kind of shied away from it, but I guess that's probably to do, if you look at as we mentioned before the pod, there's absolutely fuck all Arsenal news out there at the minute. I think the biggest story this week was that Romeo Beckham was caught wearing an Arsenal backpack. So I guess the kind of the sentiment monitor of Arsenal news probably reflects the interactions and the number of times we interact on Twitter. And when there's fuck all to talk about, and kind of the performances have been poor as they have been, then perhaps that's why Twitter has been a less enjoyable place to be lately. But on the whole, I think as we mentioned earlier, it's a great place to interact with other fans. I think there's a lot of intelligent debate on there. There are obviously morons, and you probably should have to take an IQ test to go on Twitter. But I've interacted with some people on there who I've gone on to meet at the A.F.C meetings, and through that, have some pints of people before and after games, and I've met some genuine friends off there. So I think it's a great piece of social media especially for Arsenal fans. We seem to dominate it, and we have battles with rival fans. Yeah, and if you can mute out the morons and take it for what it is, I think it's generally good fun. Although,
And it is. Sorry, Andrew.
I was going to say, anyone who uses the hashtag #GoonerTrain should get on a train and take it off a fucking cliff.
Choo, mother trucker.
Choo,
That's wonderful.
choo.
I feel the same about the people, and I don't know about you guys, but it's the people that actually personally at the players to tell them if they've been shit. I mean, I saw one. There was some ex-Chelsea player who is a complete dick. Knight, is it? I can't think of his first name, but he sent.
Was it Zach
Ozil.
Knight?
It could be. It could be him. But he'd sent Mesut Ozil a tweet saying, "Oh, you're fucking shit. Why don't you just fuck off?" And it's like, well, why don't you just engage your brain, right? Players are people too, right? They have Twitter accounts, and just like you or I, they have the ability to scroll through their messages and see what you write. And you've got to think, if you've sent a tweet to a player, just completely abusing him, and the day before a match he goes and reads that, where's his head going to be at for the game? If you've done that, then that's your fault. And it's not fair to single out players and send them this abuse because they do read it. And we all know from the fact that we've met journalists and spoken to people on here that know players, and they all actively use their Twitters and scroll down to see what people write. But Kris, what do you make of the morons that choose to directly at players?
I think the word moron is 100% correct. I mean, I can't really see what it achieves. I think there was a famous incident. I can't for the life remember. Actually, I think I can. Was it a Sheffield United lad who then went on to become a boxer? I think Curtis Woodhouse, was that the guy?
Doesn't ring
He
any
used to
bells
play
to
for
me.
Peterborough.
I'm pretty sure. And
Yep, he quit playing at about 31, went on to become a boxer and did quite well at boxing.
He did, didn't he? And I think I'm sure it was him. If it's not him, I apologise, but I'm sure it was him. It's certainly someone of that kind of level footballer. And somebody tweeted something out and said, "Oh, I could play better than that. He's an F, he's a C, he's a what?" And basically the player in question put his address on, and said, "Okay, mate, come on then. Come round to my address. We'll have a chat about it."
It was him, and he did
was
play
him,
for,
wasn't it?
he was a striker, and he did play a midfielder, and he did play for Peterborough.
I thought it was. And didn't he? And he offered the guy, and he put his address, didn't he, and everything out, and said, if you really think you can do a better job than me, we'll meet up and we'll have a little chat about it. And nothing ever happened because the guy bottled it. And I think that's what you have to remember when you're tweeting abuse to people. And to be honest, this goes for players, managers, even if it's just somebody else that you happen to follow or that you don't happen to follow. I mean, I sit here on a Saturday night and I watch people tweet about X Factor, and I want to throw myself in a bucket of acid because I just cannot understand how anyone could want to talk about it. But that's their right. I don't
hope you
sit
mean
there.
citric acid, otherwise you might die.
Well, naturally, I don't sit there and tweet every single person that I follow saying, "Oh, you're an F, you're a C because you like X Factor."
You'd have to start with me.
Well, yeah, probably. Yeah, and there's quite a few people I'd have to go through. But at the end of the day, that's their choice, and that's what they choose to tweet about. And I think it's, like Andrew said, it's very, very. People are very, very quick to jump on the first thing and abuse somebody or say, "Oh, this and that," and like you say, the fan base is split straight down the middle, so that one person says one thing, one person says another. I genuinely think that, much like Danny, in the time that I've had sort of been active on Twitter, I will always sort of interact with people that are decent, sort of ask me questions or are polite to me or have something valid to say. If somebody sends me abuse or somebody sends me something that's just completely, bullshit, or I don't agree with it, I just simply don't reply, or I'll sort of politely block them so they can't send me more abuse.
Or do what Daniel Cowan does and send them a picture of a kitten.
Or send a picture of a kitten, absolutely. And it's people like that they can't hack it. If you don't put up a fight, they can't hack it. And I have had experiences where some people have had a difference of opinion with me, and they've written and said, "Well, no, I don't think you're right there, mate. I think that's rubbish." And I tweet a lot about not just Arsenal. I tweet a lot about various different leagues and players across different sort of leagues across the world and whatnot. So I've got opinions on an awful lot of things, and I watch a lot of football. That doesn't mean that I'm more clued up than anybody else. It just means that I've got an opinion. And if people sort of agree or disagree, then I take it as a compliment that some people will ask me about a certain player we're linked with, or a certain player that I've watched, and they hear the name come up or something. And I take that as a huge compliment. But these people that sort of, again, as Andrew said, that suddenly become experts because they've watched 4 Arsenal games on Match of the Day, and suddenly they think, well, because they've watched it and they've seen something one way, well, I'll have to immediately disagree with every single other person on
I'll
Twitter.
write a blog about it.
Write a blog about it. I mean, it's, I'm all for, like you said, I'm all for freedom of speech. I'm all for opinions being shared. And, like Andrew said, clearly the match day sort of, I hate the word banter, but it's the only one that comes to mind. The match day experience is a better way of putting it. If that still is happening, and people are still meeting in the pubs and, and still sort of meeting up and being friends outside of the ground as well, then that's great. The downside is you'll also have 5 or 6 to every one of those that goes into the Emirates with an iPad and sits there and fiddles around on that for the game instead of actually taking in the opinions. And I know we've had rants on this previously where I'll freely hold my hands up and say this myself. Sometimes you'll sit there and you're watching an Arsenal game and you'll glance at Twitter and you'll see all these people giving opinions, and they'll give opinions literally every 20 seconds. You're thinking, how on earth are you watching this game if you're sat there tweeting the whole way through it? As I say, I freely admit I've done it with games that I've watched. Very rarely Arsenal games. With Arsenal games, it's more like you said, Gim, it'll just be a reactionary tweet. But some of these people that just sit there and say, right, I'm going to abuse all the players, I'm going to abuse the manager and wish him dead, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, how have you even watched the game when you've spent all that time just ploughing out abuse?
And do they think the players are looking at their tweet interactions whilst playing the game?
Exactly.
Actually, Manone might well have been for the last 2 games.
He probably was.
The funniest thing as well is you've also got to say, if you're going to tweet abuse, at least get your facts right.
Absolutely.
And I say that from experience. The other day I was just sat on a Bergkamp Wonderland, right, just happily tweeting away, and I think I put out a link to vote for us at the FBA's hashtag.
Are we in the FBA's?
We are.
I hadn't noticed the billion.
That was nice, wasn't it?
Tweets.
So you'll see a link on our page, so just vote for us. But anyway, and then someone comes back to me with a Bergkamp Wonderland added in it, and they said, "Why would I vote for you? Last time I listened to your podcast, it was dull, boring, and full of shit."
Did you see the other one that said all it was the C word? I thought that'd be Jason's fault.
Right. So I said to this old boy, and I was in a good mood that day. So I said, "I'm sorry that our podcast doesn't appeal to everyone. I can assure you we try really, really hard. We've just done some specials recently. So, log back in, give us another go, and you might learn to love us, right?" And the guy goes, "Okay, really appreciate that. Sorry, I was, a bit harsh, but, such is life and all that." And I said, "No worries, mate." I said, "We get criticism all the time. And if that's the worst you're going to throw at us, then I can die a happy man, right?" So I sat there. We'd both gone away from the conversation. We were both quite happy. And he dropped me a DM the next day in a Bergkamp Wonderland's message box. And he said, "I'm really sorry. I think I got you confused with the AFTV podcast."
Pop that pirate cunt.
He said, "I don't think I've listened to you before." But he said, "I'll go and have a listen now and let you know. And if you are that man, and I'm not going to name you, but Mark, thank you very much."
It just shows it though. But we see. The other day I did know. If I put my hand up and say I am guilty for tweeting some absolute shit. But more often than not, it's because I get bored and I just think I'll shake it up. I put out a tweet saying, Why is Rio Fucknand or whatever his name is on the Jonathan Ross show? The bloke is a bell end. Then the next tweet I put out is, I'm really distraught that the number of negative tweets that go out, I think it's out of order. Have you had someone come back to me and said, "I see what you did there. That was very funny." But we do it. But there's been a lot of negativity going around at the moment with people's tweets and with the messages we get on the podcast account. But we never tell anyone to fuck off if they say something we don't like. We say, "Well, what don't you like about it? Maybe we can change it." And we'll mention it like we did a little while ago. We had an entire pod without swearing. Didn't work.
And it has to be said as well that on the other side of this, and again, Andrew touched on this, you do meet some fantastic people, and that is always there is always a plus to the negative. I mean, and we've speak to people. I mean, like we've got sort of the other Jeff in Canada, we've got people like Jason Schrader and the Triangle guys in America, Thomas Munt as well. You know, there's people all over the world that we speak to. I say we, you know, the pod guys and everyone. You know, that is the one benefit. If you think back to the old days, there was no way you could interact with like-minded people, and sometimes I'll get questions from people that are in sort of different countries and saying, "Oh, what's it like to go to a match, and what's it like to do this, and what's it like to do that," and that's where the benefit comes. And when you can sort of help someone out, or you know, assist somebody's coming over to see a game, and you just give them an idea of where to go, for example, that's the good side of Twitter, and that's the side that really sort of makes I think our club one of the best around, because we've always had that heritage of looking out for each other, and I think that's on that side when Twitter's used properly, that comes through really well.
That's a good point. I think it's certainly brought, you know, as you mentioned there, to the size of our fan base. Obviously, we've got millions of fans worldwide, and so it helps give I think to a lot of the kind of the match day experience is obviously quite, you know, I think historically it was probably isolated to those fans that did go. Whereas now, if you look at Twitter, obviously I think there's always lots of vines from around the Emirates. You've got, you know, fans tweeting from inside the stadium, commenting on the atmosphere. There's obviously lots of pictures from around the ground, fans going in, pictures of players, lots of live reaction from, you know, what people are saying and feeling in the pubs after the game. You know, which I think, you know, is brilliant for a lot of fans, you know, obviously in the UK, not at the game, but for, you know, fans, you have to realise we have, you know, huge fan bases out in Asia. So this is the kind of, you know, it's more of a sentimental information, which, you know, you probably wouldn't pick up unless you went to the ground, which I think is, you know, it's obviously fantastic. You know, so I do think there is a lot of positives that we can take from kind of the fabric of our kind of social media base. And I think, you know, Arsenal also do very well with social media. I think, you know, they did a few classy things. We saw them when they live tweeted the commentary from the 1989 final game against Aston Villa recently on the anniversary. You know, little things like that. I think that helps, you know, endear the club to its fan base, and, you know, helps bring it back down, you know, in tune with you know, how we're thinking and feeling. Because, you know, obviously it's so easy to become despondent with the club nowadays. What we're, you know, being just, you know, a large business, it's good that it can interact with fans the way it does. And it's good that we have things, you know, where, you know, you can ask the players questions from time to time. You know, you got, you know, a very little chance of your question being answered, but I think it helps, you know, build that kind of, you know, that kind of, I guess, that bond for some people with the club, which I think is fantastic.
Definitely so. So, is there anything else anybody wants to say on this topic before we move on?
Yeah, we seem to have some troll who keeps tweeting about the pod, and he's an absolute unit. He's a weapon. I think he's called Taffy is a Gooner. Taffy is a gunner.
Oh, what a bellend that
Oh,
guy.
he sounds tidy.
That guy is a proper mong.
Is he a slayer of ladies? I love you so I will.
Well, we had one on there literally a day ago as well, that when the whole thing came out with Mo, this was supposed to be a Mo special tonight, but unfortunately me and Danny got together and we've actually decided that you, the listener, really are sick of it. I don't know how you guys feel about that. I'd like to think that we've made the right decision.
Sick of people moaning.
Yeah,
it
is something that we want to do, but we felt that it was a little bit soon from the last one. So for all the people that are saying it's because we're scared of Mo, we're really not. We just are a bit sick of it, really, and I think that's the best way to put it. But some guy said to us saying, "Oh yeah, Jeff went on theirs and he got scared and totally owned, and now you won't give Mo the exposure on your own podcast because you're too afraid." It's
just boring. Everybody's doing it, and we just don't want to do it anymore.
It's like, put on Pornhub and have a wank.
But we're giving the listeners a kind of, I guess, a ramble insight into our WhatsApp group conversations, basically. This is kind of a complete off-key conversation, just chatting bollocks. But this is, you know, lad Arsenal chat. This is real chat. This is, you're in the epicenter of the Bergkamp Wonderland food for thought here. So
Pulling back the curtain.
yeah,
Someone just
It
made a good. I just tweeted that I've just said 99% of people on Twitter are clueless twats, and Alistair, who is at Al Soprano, says, "Of course, it sometimes surprises me how some of them manage to fill out the form." It's true though, but we are. Well, I'd like to think we're very approachable. If someone has something to say, we'll listen to it.
Call
And
me a
also-
cunt, but I mean, understand I'll poo through your letterbox when I find out where you live.
And also with this, just to sort of finish up that point about the boredom, about the infighting and stuff, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you hand deliver 48 skips of Wenger out tweets to Arsene Wenger's door, knock on his door and say, Arsene, we've received these, mate. It's time for you to go. He's not going to go. So it really doesn't matter. So all these people that just said, "Oh, manager out, manager out, manager out." I mean, it's irrelevant until he chooses to go. He will be there. So
You say
let's just
door?
get behind him.
Do you mean gated community?
Well, naturally, yeah, you'd have to press the buzzer and wait for security. But
Say, my man.
Can you imagine 48 Grundens lorries?
yeah, Arsene, we've received these for you, mate.
Is it your birthday? Right, we'll move on then. And our next topic comes courtesy of Andrew. So, Andrew, what do you want to chat about?
the political hot potato. What do you think about the pedestrianisation of Norwich City Centre?
Oh, Mr.
outrageous.
Partridge, I bow down.
No, this week, Monsieur Wenger said we need to produce more effort defensively. Fucking hell. So, yeah, I want everyone... what's their view on Wenger's assertion that we need to work harder defensively as a team? And whether, in fact, we need to work harder defensively or whether we actually have to have some defensive tactics.
I simply think that if he bought the right players to play in the right positions and had enough cover for all of those positions, then personally, we wouldn't be in the shit that we are at the moment, having to play a left back as a centre back. Kris?
I'll try and come at it from a slightly positive or slightly different positive way. Cheap plug, terrible plug, but I'm going to have to throw it in. I was listening to the very excellent Amy Lawrence talk about her Invincibles book the other night. Believe it was on the Tuesday Club, but anyway, whoever it was. And she made the point that they were talking about this subject about Arsenal buying defenders and whatnot. And she was saying that during the Invincibles season, when we brought in certain players, they were brought in to play, they were playing certain positions, they were brought in, and they were such, sort of Wenger's philosophy was so hard and fast that he will play or you will play this role. The the players eventually adjusted to it. And she highlighted Ralph Lauren, and he came in as a wide right midfielder. And he was like, I don't want to play right back. I don't want to play right back. And Wenger was like, no, I really think you can be one of the best, around if you do. And it took a bit of convincing, and eventually he did. Cola Touré was another one, played sort of a central midfielder or left midfielder. I think he played as a forward against Chelsea in one game. Ended up as one of the better centre halves we had. And even sort of Flamini, obviously, in the run to the Champions League final. I think the problem is nowadays is that with Arsene is sort of in his sort of stubborn ways, and almost I think he maybe believes in players a bit too much. And I think he's looking at players like playing Monreal at centre back and saying, well, we'll make do, because he just doesn't want to spend money that he feels, rightly or wrongly, that's obviously a case for debate. He doesn't feel that he should pay money for a player. Take, for example, Winston Reid, that he thinks, well, I can probably get him either cheaper in January or free at the end of the season, or I can bring him in, he can be fourth choice for the first 6 months of the season on a high transfer fee. Granted, this is Arsenal. We always get injuries. I'd rather we had 6 centre-halves, and if they're unhappy, that's life. Tough shit. That's the way it is. If you look at the big clubs and all across Europe, pretty much all of them have got cover in various positions. But even a club like Chelsea, Ivanovic isn't really necessarily a centre-half, but he can play there, and as well as right back. So I think it's kind of a double-edged sword. I think Wenger still believes that he can transform players. I still think he believes that a player that he has under his command can be moulded into whatever he wants him to be. And obviously we've had the debate with those who are playing out of position, and you can go over that ground again. But I think he feels that he can mould a player into playing however he wants. I don't necessarily agree that. I think football's moved on a lot since the Invincibles days where that was possible. I think nowadays players are pretty much moulded into positions they play in, and that's why they go for so much money, because that's the position they're playing in. Mesut Ozil would not have been a £42 million player if he was struggling to get games on the left wing for Real Madrid. Let's be honest, he would have gone for 16, 20 million. So I think when you buy a player, you need to play him in that position, or you're going to essentially dig your own grave. On the slightly positive route on that one, I do have a funny feeling that we might actually end up doing the strengthening we need to do in January. I've got a little feeling that he might go out and get one or two. Sadly, we'll probably have given up the championship to Chelsea by early January anyway, so it'll be irrelevant. But it might help the push for fourth. So keep the faith.
Do you see those names that come in, Kris, as names that are of a certain quality? Would you say world class, or would you say squad fillers?
I mean, that's a tough one. I think it's almost sounding like Arsene here, but I think if the right player becomes available at the right time, and it's almost like a lunar eclipse, it's everything lining up in perfect harmony. But if the right player becomes available and the circumstances are right for him, I think we could go world class. I don't think the Khedira thing is done. I still think there's something in that, just based purely on the fact that the contract's in front of him and he's not signing it. That, to me, says a lot. Same with the aforementioned Winston Reid. I think there could be something in that because, again, he's 20? I think he's 28 now. So if he's ever going to make the move to a bigger club, now is probably going to be the only time he's going to get a chance to do it. I wouldn't even be surprised if he went completely random and pulled out something like a Draxler. A player we really don't need, let's be honest, but I just wouldn't be surprised if he did. On the flip side of that, if we get to sort of January the 31st and we end up with another Kallstrom, provided he hasn't got a broken back, I'm fine with that. If that means that we're going to get the right business done in the summer, unfortunately, obviously, the longer things go, the more the fans lose faith that he will do that. But to answer your question, I could see one world class and then maybe a squad filler. If not, it'll probably be nothing.
And Danny, again, the only one that's really been silent on this, and I will go back to Andrew to get his overall opinion from his own question. But Danny?
I think the problem with the defence thing, I mean, we've got one clean sheet in a row, which is as many as you can get when you start. But the problem is, I said on the Goonosphere pod that if anybody thinks that Wenger didn't have players lined up in the summer for centre-back, then you're a raving lunatic. But he probably almost definitely did. I know we were sniffing around Lovren. He was probably worth about 15, 16 million, and Liverpool went, 25 million, have all of our money. We went, oh, we can't have him then. And we were linked with Williams, and then I think he got a pay rise and decided to stay at Swansea. And there's so many players we've been linked with, but then Wenger just doesn't want to go the extra little bit. Like, remember back in 2009 when we were linked with Xavi Alonso? Wenger didn't want to pay the extra £1 or £2 million that Liverpool wanted. So he went on to Real Madrid, and now, even at the age of 31, 32, whatever he is at the moment, 33, he's one of the best players in the world. I mean, although even now we could have bought him in for the amount of money that he's on, and he'd have done a couple of good seasons for us. And then we've got the other thing, like with Mark Schwartz, who in about 2010-11, Wenger wanted him. I think we bid about 2 or 3 million. They said they wanted 4 million, and then Wenger went, nope, not paying it. Turns out we're all right. Steady on. What's that?
That's Andrew.
Andrew.
Pardon me.
You eating crisps?
But Danny, you've also
Don't
got to
you
say,
dare eat crisps without sharing.
sorry to cut you off, but
There'll be no cutting
Brede
off.
Hangeland, a player that we were linked with for 10 million from Fulham a few years back, didn't he move on a free this window? Couldn't he have done a job as central defensive cover, surely?
I really said he
Have
went to Aston Villa there.
I really gone that batshit crazy even suggesting that?
No, where did
Or
he
am
go?
I just... He went to Crystal Palace
That
for
was
free.
it, and he scored a goal at the weekend, yeah.
And he
As another
scored
player.
against us.
Yeah,
He's not technically good enough. That's
no,
the
he's
reason.
another Senderos.
Yeah.
But he's someone that
he could have done a job,
could have
yeah.
come in and done a job.
But imagine him and BFG at centre back. Jesus, even my granny would go, and she's been dead for 30 years. She'd get past them. But my point is that Wenger has all these players lined up, and we all keep saying Wenger should just go to the people at the club and go, here is the list of what I want. This is my first choice, second choice, third choice. Go and get them. And admittedly, we may only get second or third choices at times. That's what we need to do. You look at Jean Mata, another player that we'd lined up the deal for, almost about to sign on the dotted line, and then Chelsea come in, offered much more money, and then we can't compete. So I think, oh, geez, I'm being attacked by my cat. Yes, dear. No, I'm doing a podcast. No, you can't stab me. Silly cow, she's getting fat. She's struggled to get through the cat flap. And like Eden Hazard, another player, was at Lille, and that's another player that we could have had, but who did Wenger go and buy instead? Gervinho. And even after Lille won the title, we could have gone for him, and he went, not ready yet, we don't need him just yet. Imagine if we'd have had Mata and Hazard and all these other players. I think the problem with going back to Andrew's original point with we need to defend better, I think he needs to stop worrying about the money, because when it is retired and we look back at the history books, it won't go season X, well done Wenger, you saved the club £14 million by not playing X player. All it will say is conceded loads of goals, didn't score enough, finished fourth over and over. It's not your money. The only understandable way it could be is if they go, we've got £100 million here, you get 10% of what is left at the end of it. And I don't even think a man of Wenger's stature would do that. Not when he's milking a living on £8 million a year.
Can I throw in just a random sub question very briefly?
Good.
Linked to I typed in the Skype window there about Manolas, and he was the one
No.
From what I can gather, that deal was quite far down the road, to the point where I think he was talking about, or there was talk of him setting up a medical. The only reason we didn't sign him in the end was essentially he chose Roma over us because they offered him pretty much guaranteed first-team football, something that we couldn't do. My sub-question is, in the whole time that Wenger's reigned, and that's a long time now, when has he ever, and I mean ever, gone out and bought a world-class defender?
Silence
Sol
is
Campbell,
deafening.
exactly. And what did Sol Campbell come on?
A free.
Exactly.
£100,000 a week.
He doesn't like signing defenders. Defenders are not what floats his boat. Again, I think it was stealing Amy Lawrence's point again, but I think she puts in the book that it's not the sort of thing he likes to play. He likes forward players. He likes to bring in.
He doesn't care about defenders, does he?
He doesn't. It's the age-old joke. Arsene, what do you need? A centre back. Arsene, what are you going to buy? Striker. That's kind of.
I mean, you go and look at this thing that I'm writing the blog. I'm working on my first ever blog, but you know me, I go on for fucking ever. And I'm talking about some of the absolute disaster players that he bought, like Andre Santos. Never a left back. He was a Brazilian wing back, and that means you attack. That doesn't mean you do. One season he scored 17 goals in a season. Yeah. Fullbacks don't do that. A fullback unless you're a penalty taker, which he was. And he scored 17 goals in 28 games. That's only on Brazilian Wikipedia if you go and have a look at it. And then that bloke cost us what, £6-7 million?
Yeah.
And then the amount of players,
eh? And there's the rest.
And was Nacho worth £8.5 million?
At the time, I think
absolutely.
Because I think that's cheap. I think that's cheap for a Spanish international. But if you look at the players, the other players that Wenger's brought in, you go through the Cola Tourés. He was what, £6 in a packet of pork scratchings from Beveren. Lauren was
£6 million.
A utility player, played for Mallorca.
He
was a right-sided player for Mallorca. Yeah, right-sided midfielder. Gael Clichy was a youth product that we snared out of the academy at Cannes, was it? Thinking back anyway.
Yeah, Cannes, yeah. I think that was 200 grand.
Even if you look at Laurent Koscielny, I mean, we plucked him from Lorient when he'd had one good season at in the French league.
100% tackle rate.
He signed for Lorient, and we got him. Even Per Mertesacker wasn't a regular for Werder Bremen when we brought him in. He was German international. He was in and out of the side.
So it makes you wonder how he can sign the likes of Gilberto, who was an absolute legend of a player.
Yeah, but we got him from Atletico Mineiro, and he wasn't. He was very good at what he did, but we got him out of the Brazilian league. The reason we got him was because no one else was looking at him. Whereas if you look at Eden Hazard, I think we were keen, and all the talks had gone well, and then Chelsea came along and went, how much are they offering? Yeah, fuck them, we'll treble it.
When you look at the absolute donkeys that we sign, like Senderos and Duru and Stepanovs and Squillaci.
They were punts, though. They were punts, weren't they? I mean,
they were who?
Punts.
Squillaci.
Squillaci was Silvestre is another one. They were probably the two biggest bollocks dropped, but arguably
Andre Santos
Nelson
is for me.
Vivas.
I love Nelson Vivas.
Andre Santos cost him about £6.5 million. He had him for 2.5 years and let him go on a free.
He was a trolley dash, there wasn't he? He was, out of that deal, the only good things we got were Mertesacker and Arteta in that trolley dash. And if you look at what we sort of, I think it's a very, very hard balancing act. If we'd have signed,
We're moaning again, aren't we?
yeah, we are. If we'd have signed a Mikel Silvestre or a who was the other one we mentioned?
Days.
Or a Squillaci, sorry. If we'd have signed one of those two at the end of this transfer window, do you think everyone would have been happy and said, well, at least we've got some cover, and then they'd have been shit? Do you not think Arsene Wenger probably sits there and looks at it and thinks, well, actually, the one time I brought in what I thought was effective cover, they were pretty awful. Do you know what? I'll actually wait and I'll get who I really want.
Yeah, but you look at old Squillaci. He come from Sevilla, I think he did. I always get Sevilla and Mallorca. Yeah. And he was a Spanish. He was a French international centre back. How the hell that deal? That on paper that looked like a good deal.
Yeah, well,
it turned out to be shit.
So did Silvestre, because granted he wasn't. He
was
didn't
getting on a bit though.
He didn't pull up any trees, but you know what? He did a job. We signed Davor Suker when his legs are gone, but he did a hell of a job for a season.
The problem is, if you wait for who you want to become available, you end up in the farce that we're in now.
That's very true.
We've
that's
got no one left, and we've got these injuries.
Yeah, and you've got to put faith in these people. Like, if you look at someone like Isaac Hayden, how did Tony Adams make the grade at Arsenal? How did Steve Bold make the grade? They were players that were either brought in very young on sort of cheap wages and thrown in the deep end, or in Tony's case, brought through the academy and up they came. I mean, I know it's a different game nowadays, but if you believe in the players enough and if you think they're good enough, why not play them? And that's if Isaac Hayden is good enough to be on a professional contract at Arsenal Football Club, then why is he not good enough to play when our first choice 4 centre halves are injured?
But then you look at some of the other players we've got coming through, like Dan Crowley, who's only 17, 18, and absolute legend in the making, and Julio Unpronounceable, another outstanding player it looks like he's got coming through. And then we've got quite a few of them coming through, and yeah. I mean, that's just. I mean, we said with the impact that Bellerin has had and how good he has looked. I mean, John Terrell was the better of the two when he come from Spain, but he had the long injury. So I think there's plenty of stuff to be excited about and look forward to. But what we need is players. We need bodies on the pitch. That's what. Oh God, that sounds like a bloody Death song, doesn't it? We need fit players on the team sheet.
And a Martin Keown in training would be fantastic.
Because
like Andrew said,
that winds me up. We should have them back at the club. All of them come back. The amount of knowledge they have.
Going full circle to Andrew's point, to sum up, if you want to draw a line under it, exactly what Andrew's point is. If Arsene is the one coming out saying, well, we need to defend better, I love Arsene Wenger to bits, but Arsene, bless you, mate, that's your job. So, get somebody in. If you don't like coaching defence, then get someone in that does. You've got probably one of the best defenders in our history as your assistant manager, and it seems like you can barely talk to him.
Very true.
So that means he's on his motorbike making a getaway.
Andrew, it was your question. So do you want to finish this off?
Yeah, you motherfuckers.
That's not the first time Gimli said that to a gentleman.
Knew that was coming. Literally.
That's awesome. No, I think obviously there's been quite a lot of debate there around, the names of players who we've bought who have, ultimately failed, and the names of players who we could have bought who could have gone on to be great for us. But I think, coming back to Wenger's point, and if you link it in with kind of one of the debates, one of the kind of out of the posture of the debates has been recently is whether players work hard enough at Arsenal. If you look at what Wenger's saying, we need to work harder as a unit defensively. There's talk about, people are praising Alexis for working hard and then kind of using it to snipe at Ozil. And kind of my point here is, or my view is, sorry, I don't think that we necessarily need to work harder as a unit defensively. I think we need to start working together as a, full stop defensively. I don't think, it's easy enough just to say, actually, as a team, we need to go and work harder to defend. We need to actually have, a system in place which allows us to defend as a unit. The game's completely changed now. I think if you look back at the Invincibles, we obviously were a very attack-focused team, and we didn't necessarily have defensive tactics. But at the time, we didn't really need to, apart from, maybe a little bit better tuned in the Champions League. We could go out and win games despite having someone like Kolo Touré in defence who, for all intents and purposes, I don't think is a very good defender whatsoever. But he had players around him like Loren, Cole, Campbell, Vieira, Gilberto, So we had these players of absolute excellent
But he
quality.
was a perfect foil for someone like Campbell, wasn't he?
Yeah, precisely. He had all the pace, but inside the box, he was a nightmare. But if you look at the game now and kind of and the talent of strikers and the tactics in the game now, we don't seem to, for example, one thing we mentioned earlier, I said, when I think Gimli, you said, what does Sanchez give us? He presses high up the pitch. And so one thing we talked about before on the pod is, why is defending limited to defenders? If you look at all the top teams, if you look at, Chelsea, they start defending high up the pitch with players like Schürrle. If you look at Liverpool, they start defending high up the pitch with Sterling. If you look at Barcelona, Dortmund, these teams, they press extremely high up the field. And that's where they all start to defend as a unit. So it means that they're not on the back foot when teams break. Whereas at Arsenal, our first line of defence seems to be Koscielny because we don't tactically defend as a unit. We don't have players that press. We don't have players that attack or drive into space unless it's individuality players like Sanchez, players like Rosicky. So I feel like if we are going to become more of a defensive unit, it doesn't necessarily have to be. Obviously, if you put in players of better quality, it will support that, and you'll put in the framework there. But unless to really become a top team, or sorry, to really become a top defensive team, you need to have some tactics that help underpin that. And sometimes I just feel that we completely lack that at Arsenal because, as you say, for all of the quality attacking football we do get from Wenger, sometimes you feel that we don't concentrate on the defence, and I don't think it necessarily is just a case of working 10% harder as a defensive unit. You can run around all you like a madman, but unless you have some tactical underpinning of that, it will come undone by world-class strikers every so often, or good strikers. We've seen things like Everton putting Lukaku out on the left just to manipulate Monreal, and it's kind of wiped us apart. So yeah, obviously a holding midfielder would be brilliant, and it would help reduce the number of errors we make. But we need to have more of a defensive tactic to our game, and I think that has to start including the strikers and the midfielders as well.
Do you think the Wenger's attitude to buying defenders has changed with Chambers and Debuchy? That I both think are both unbelievably brilliant buys. One of them is exactly what we need now, and one of them is exactly what we need in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Wenger's ever gone out. I mean, I know we've bought some proper shit defenders in the past, but I mean, likewise, we've also bought players like Park up front, and we have been quite tight in areas. So, and I do think Wenger probably does pay more attention to players that he likes. But I think we've always had very good fullbacks at Arsenal. And for the first part of his career, he never really had to concentrate on buying defenders at Arsenal because he had the blueprint there for him. But he has gone and brought in players like Campbell, Gallas, especially people who are very competent. And so hopefully as you mentioned there, Debuchy and Chambers, we're going to see an influx of players of quality defenders. That's what I'm hoping for, and we're really starting to get rid of some of the crap ones we've seen in like the last 7 or 8 years.
And there's hard luck involved as well. Just very briefly, when you look at a player like Diaby, I mean, I was there. Oh, Christ, how many years ago when we beat Sheffield Wednesday 4-1 at home, and with about 20 minutes, in fact, no, it's probably a bit earlier than that, into the second half, a young sort of beanpole-looking lad came onto the pitch called Patrick Vieira, and every single person that watched Patrick Vieira that night knew we'd found a player. And I think when Diaby first started getting in and around the Arsenal team, granted he's not a holding or defensive midfielder, quote unquote. I mean, I'm getting bored of this DM stuff now, but he was that physical presence that had the cretin from Sunderland not mashed, he probably would have been that player for the last 6 years for us. So you got to take into consideration that we've been a little bit unlucky in that. Granted, that doesn't excuse not going out and buying somebody to do that role.
No. So we'll move on then. And as always on ABW, we're always interested to hear from what you, the listener, has to say. And this week you've bombarded us with a host of questions. So Danny, let's have them.
I wasn't looking at porn at all. Right, where are they?
My
No, I wasn't actually. I was reading my Twitter questions.
You fucking were, because I know you, and I know that's the kind of sick, twisted shit you do.
I was actually looking at Torrent Day and see what films I had out there.
All right, move on.
Planet of the Apes is out already, and so is the Turtles. Their film's out already. Bloody hell! Right, I'll do these in the order of which I read them. So, Hong Lee says, should Wenger stick with a 4-2-3-1 until our first team players are back? And yes or no, Andrew?
Yes.
Oh, Kris.
Yes.
Oh, Gimli.
Yes.
Oh, it's like an orgy. We all screamed yes at the same time. I say no. I think we should play 4-0-0-6. 6 up front. Everybody out there are going to win every game 17-5. Have we got not Jason Davies there reading any Facebook questions?
Yeah, I believe Jace is there.
Hello.
Hello, Jace.
Oh, there he is. You alright, Jace?
Eh?
Oh, sorry, I just fucking shotgun. If Klopp is sacked by Dortmund, should Arsene Wenger step aside?
What does Andrew think to that?
Oh, what a fucking imbecile Jason is. No.
Are you going to have that, Jace? Are you going to let him away with that?
Oh,
No.
no.
What do you think, Andrew?
I think.
Go on, Jason, let him have it.
Yeah. No. I think. It'd be pretty ridiculous. I mean, Dortmund aren't in great form at the minute, but I mean, it would be, fucking ridiculous of Dortmund to let Klopp go after what he's done at that club. He's revolutionised them from a pretty tormented team. And there goes the. Sorry, I live right next to Greenwich Market, and there's some gobshite Halloween festival going on tonight, and all the local fucking idiots.
Put the kettle on, and if you're in a flat, then if they come knocking, just pour the kettle out the window.
Give him justice.
Dare
Might
you?
put that Jimmy Savile pumpkin out the front. But no, so I think what was I saying? Yeah, no. So Klopp completely revolutionised Dortmund. I mean, obviously, historically they're a big club, but when he took over, they'd come out of their kind of years of debt and having to sell off a lot of their key assets, and I think he really turned them around from a relatively depressed club into one of the most I guess one of the most elegant teams to watch in Europe, and he's created some real gems, players like Lewandowski, Mario Götze, Marco Reus, Blaszczykowski. They've been fantastic under his years there. Obviously they're having a bit of a down form again now, which is nothing uncharacteristic of big football teams. I think he's a fantastic manager. I think whose style of management and his passion for the game would probably endear itself to the Arsenal fans one day when Wenger moves aside. But I think if Dortmund were to make some cocaine binge fueled decision to get rid of him now mid-season.
Hold on, Gimli doesn't make the decisions at Dortmund.
No, I don't.
That's not going to happen then.
No, I think
If
they did make that decision, and then Arsenal made a similar decision to release Arsene Wenger and bring in Klopp, it would just be it'd be stupid. Not because I'm saying Arsene Wenger is the holy grail, but bringing in a manager, changing your manager midway through the season for someone who's I think Klopp would need time out from the game, a few months to probably recharge his batteries, recharge his hunger, and make sure. And Arsenal have to make sure he's the right man for the club before bringing him in when they feel it's a suitable time. But midway through the season, to bring in a manager who's just been made fired, I don't think would make any sense at a club the size of Arsenal. We're Arsenal, not Yeovil Town, and I think it'd just be ridiculous.
Can I make a point on the wonderful Mr. Klopp, how good he was? He joined Dortmund as manager, I'm just going to check my facts, in 2008. And the seasons before that, Dortmund finished 13th, 9th, 7th, 7th, 6th. And that he took over in 2008, 6th, then 5th, then 1st, then did the double, then 2nd, and then was 2nd again and runners-up in the German Cup, I think it was. Yeah, so he's a hell of a manager. But I don't think... First of all, I listened to a couple of episodes of a German podcast about Dortmund done in English, and there is no way the fans want him to go.
He won't go. Simple as that. He won't go. They think
They're not all
Dortmund
mental.
think the absolute world of Jurgen Klopp, and Dortmund are in. I mean, it's not a bad spell of form. It's an alarming spell of form. I mean, they're to say that they're contenders for relegation zone is complete rubbish because they will come good. But as things stand right now, they're only, I think it's a point above. So, they are in a real slump. But Klopp is a fantastic manager. I think it's very knee jerk for anyone to say, "Oh well, would you have him at Arsenal?" Because I think over the long spectrum of time, I think Klopp is the sort of guy that would like to manage Arsenal. I think he's the sort of manager that would see it as an absolute privilege, and I put my head on the block. I think he will manage us one day, but it'll be the time that suits him. Rather than the time that suits Dortmund, because I can't see Dortmund letting him go. And as you said there, Danny, any German club, even competing with Bayern Munich, is doing an incredible job. And Borussia Mönchengladbach celebrated thank you, celebrated a 0-0 draw like they won the league last Sunday, just because they kept them out. And Bayern, they're a juggernaut. They've got all the money in the Bundesliga that they could ever need. They will always take. They'll always take the Dortmund's best players. I mean, Götze and Lewandowski are two examples.
I think everybody's best players, including their goalkeeper, who said he'd never leave and then join them the next season.
Absolutely, and they will continue to do that. And it's funny how the same thing happened to us with certain players that we let go to Chelsea and City and it happens when there's so much money on the table, and for Dortmund to even compete with Bayern Munich is a minor miracle. So Klopp will never be sacked. He will walk away on his own terms when the time suits him or the job suits him.
Gimli, Arsenal this season, we have lost the massive number of one game in the league. Dortmund this season have lost 5 of their last 6. What do you think Arsenal Twitter would be like if Arsenal had lost 5 of their last 6 Premier League games and drew the other one, and they're losing to teams at the bottom of the league?
I think it'd actually be quite quiet because we'd all have hung ourselves, wouldn't we?
Jeez, it just puts it into some kind of perspective, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it's more in a way the way that we've been playing and the results as well. It's normally you get a certain air of positivity from the team, and at the moment the only positives we're really getting are Alexis and Welbeck, and many of us, and I'll sit here and put my hands up and say that I wasn't happy with the Welbeck signing, but I'll tell you what. Boy has really come good for us, and you got to think if it wasn't for those 2 players, where would we be in the league right now?
Goes without saying.
I think we should also back to the question. I think we shouldn't forget that the club will. I know some fans will probably laugh at the idea when I say this. The ones that think obviously Wenger runs everything, but the club do. From what I gather anyway, from speaking to some people and journalists. The club are always monitoring certain managers, and they, the positions of managers and potential futures. Yeah. So, we know that they've looked at Brendan Rodgers in the past before he moved to Liverpool, and they actually were, they were rating him quite highly, and they saw him as a future potential. And then obviously he's gone on to Liverpool in the end. But the club, I do believe, they are, in tune with, movement of managers across Europe and kind of rising young managers as future potentials of Arsene Wenger. But I don't... carry on, mate.
I was going to say, it's easy for them to monitor those managers. They just go down the job centre, because Owen Coyle, I don't think he's in management at the moment. And the other last great wonder was old Moisey, who's also at the job centre. So
don't forget Michael Laudrup, who's now managing in Qatar.
Kicking Arsenal. But I think Swansea shit on him, and he is a good manager.
Oh, yeah.
But again, everyone who likes Spanish football will tell you that he's good for the first season and he's shit after that.
Yeah.
So, it's easy to keep track of them all, Andrew. Just keep down the job centre. And just make sure there's no one there having a shit on the seat next to you.
Oh, don't go there.
We're saving that for the Christmas special.
Yeah.
Yes. Next question, please.
All right, I will go. Blame Giroud says, would you consider Higuain as a good January transfer window by Mr. Gimli?
Yes.
Mr. Kris with a K?
God no, absolutely not. No fucking, please keep him in Napoli. He's shit. No.
.com. Andrew?
Nah, I think we need a holding midfielder.
Chris?
Yes?
Stop moving your headphones.
Sorry.
Because that's all the listeners can hear is your long, luscious locks getting caught in the headphones.
All the listeners are listening to this thinking that you're a...
Because all they can hear is it's like a kitten and a ball of wool. He's got his long locks and the leads, and I can imagine he's been near death's door hanging himself with it. So get hold of Gav, get one of his she-wore scrunchies and whip it on and stop making fucking noise.
You've actually segued brilliantly there, because Jason Schrader, friend of the pod,
who doesn't follow us, by the way. Thank you, Jason.
Oh, Jason, sort it out, mate. Come on, I can't give you love if you're not going to follow us. But he did say to me a question about a couple of hours ago. He said, when is it time for a Chris Carpenter haircut? I say if we crack the top 3, we should get the shears.
No, never.
I agree.
That's not happening.
Well, who was that
No, it's
famous
not.
mythical bloke who was it Samson?
Samson, yes.
Oh,
His powers went.
just think what the Pirates would do if you shaved all your hair off. They get They can't get relegated. They'd lose all the time.
Well, look at Bentner. He used to have long hair, didn't he? Look what's happened since.
He's ripping up trees at Dortmund. I mean, literally, he's now the gardener because he's to fuck all on the pitch.
Wolfsburg.
Jason,
I was going to say, when did he go to Dortmund?
what did I say? Dortmund.
Yeah.
Oh, for fuck's sake, he plays for Wolfsburg and he wasn't even playing. They played a UEFA Cup game in the week and he wasn't even on the bench.
I got him in a pack on my FIFA Ultimate Team. I wanted to chuck
What are
myself
you-
down the stairs.
What are you playing FIFA? I didn't even know you played computer games.
Just because
What's
we're
it on?
friends on the
Computer
podcast, it
games?
doesn't.
What, you 7?
I don't have to tell you everything.
On your Nintendo DS, what game are you playing at the moment?
I've
you
got
Mega
Theo
Drive?
Walcott on my Xbox. I'll have you know.
You have an Xbox 360
I do.
and you're playing it online.
No,
And how are you getting your ultimate packs then?
because I'm just doing it, and I.
How many
Hashtag
gamer
have you
points
seen
have you
this
got? Because don't know if the listening millions know, the old GFP is a bit of a legend when it comes to gaming. I think I've got about 38,000 game points on Xbox.
Gaming.
I'm a fucking legend. I tell you what, I go out there on Skyrim and I have a couple of katanas, and I'll tell you what, no one is safe.
Anyway,
Right.
Couple of
Have it-
martinis, a slimline pinatella. Oh,
I had
thank you very much.
I had another question on Twitter if you'd like one.
Oh, bloody, what's it with you in the questions? We're meant to
Wow.
go over to not Jason Davies.
Oh yeah, sorry. Should we do
I've
that
got
one
no.
first?
You
Come back
do
to
it
me?
first, and then you hand over to not Jason Davies.
Okay, no
Thank
worries.
you
Well,
very much.
Davies.
this one comes
Oh,
from
Jason Davies seems to become Swedish. That's not good.
This one comes from Rudy, who's at RUDI_IS_G. And he asks, do you think the Gooners will destroy Anderlecht on Tuesday, and what team do you see Wenger playing? I'll go to Danny first.
Well, at the back we're going to have whoever can stand, and then we can have midfield the same who played last time, and up front the same as last time. And I think they will have learnt their lessons, and I think we will probably do them 3 or 4-0.
Cool. Gim?
Yeah, I just agree with what Danny said.
Don't you dare ever do that again.
It would be pretty much whose legs haven't fallen off, or whatever's wrong with them.
I heard Douglas Bader's up for a game if anyone needs him.
But I reckon it'll be probably 2 or 3-0.
Cool. Andrew?
to Arsenal.
Yes.
You
Hang
never
on,
know.
we doing predictions for that game now, are we? Or
No, we're not doing it.
I'm going
now.
to change
gonna
mine.
say, Andrew, what do you think?
Arsenal, I think we're going to win 2-0.
All right, Jeff. What, Giroud first scorer? What do you think, Chris with a kick? Go on.
Chuck my 3 pence in.
That's Chris with a kicking cur,
I
not a curly cur.
I actually got a funny feeling that he might rest a few on Saturday, which worries me a bit.
Because the mighty Burnley.
Yeah, well, I
Fucking
think you'll
hell,
see it as an opportunity to rest a few legs, and one of them that I think he might rest is Alexis, which is slightly disappointing because thank you to my good pal Mr.
Stop
PR, who are
moving.
you over there? I didn't move it then. I didn't move it.
That was actually me. I
Yeah.
was tickling my
Shit.
ears.
Thank you.
Oh.
Anyway, yes, thanks to Andrew in the kind world of season ticket exchange. I shall be going to the Burnley game on Saturday, so I've got a horrible feeling that my Alexis
You shall
drink
go
will
to the
be-
ball.
I shall
Oh,
go
my
to the
bloody-
ball. I got a horrible feeling that I won't actually get to see Alexis play that game. I got a feeling that he might rest a few, and that we may see the likes of Podolski and the Ox and Arteta
But there
sort of
again,
start
you
in
might
that
see
game.
Rosicky play.
And Chris.
Well, yeah, that's true.
You're
As-
quite
as-
close to the. You'll be quite close to the sub bench, so you'll be close enough to basically shout at Wenger who you want to come on and off, and that's what all the other gobshites around me seem to do. So you might
Perhaps
as well.
perhaps
throw
I
in
could,
your-
Perhaps I could do like that Tottenham fan did, and perhaps I can sort of go through halfway through the game, just wander down and go, look, I'm the Pirates manager, I could do you a favour here, and he might let me sit down for a bit.
He'll probably
Perhaps he
recognise
goes-
you before you have to tell him who you are.
Yeah, no, perhaps you go, oh, okay then, Chris, I've heard about you. What would you do? And then you suggest it, and you go, and then he'd do opposite.
Yeah, probably, yeah. He'd sub me after 10 minutes.
Bang a nose.
Maybe he
Hang a
wouldn't.
nose.
So going to give it over to not Jason Davies.
Yes, please.
Not Jason Davis. Where art thou?
You're sorry, boys. I fucking out of it. You're sorry. Question number 2: should we sell Ozil this January?
No. No, I'm going to start with that. No. Anyone who thinks we should sign Mesut Ozil is a prick.
Danny?
No, I don't think we should either.
Oh.
You bold it.
You turncoat.
Oh, yes, I do think we should sell him because for 3 reasons. One, and I'm counting on my fingers, and I'm not going to do what people do when they count on their fingers and stick on the first finger.
You are from near Norwich.
Yeah, they're all webbed. Reason number 1, when he plays, Wenger doesn't want to play him in his proper position, right? That's one reason to sell him. Another reason to sell him on little digit number 2 is that Wenger is not going to say to him, number 10, every single game, come rain or shine, come win or lose, is your position. That's what he needs to do. Number 3, he's either injured, out of form, or pissed off, or double marked for every single game. And the most important reason, Sanchez is playing out of his skin, and if Ozil played out of his skin every game like Sanchez has, we'd have won the World Cup by now. So I think if someone offers us £40 million, sell him. And I would
That
hate
ain't going to happen. No one's going to offer £40 million for him. As it stands, Mesut Ozil is a £25 million player.
Well, then I wouldn't sell him. But I only want to make, before people start sending me turds through the letterbox, I think if we're not careful, this could be another Andre Arshavin situation, a world-class fucking legend of a player whose career is going to be fucking ruined because Wenger thinks we need a bit of cover at left wing. No, you play him every game, all 90 minutes, at the number 10, behind Welbeck or behind Giroud, and that's where you play him. If you're not going to play him there, fucking sell him, because it breaks my fucking heart seeing a wonderful, probably the most gifted player we've had at the club since Bergkamp, played out of position, and you can see him slowly dying, and I hate to fucking see it, so yes, fucking sell him.
Right, now how do you really feel?
Now keep him.
Do you know what? Actually, I do agree with what Danny said.
I told you, not again, fuck off.
If he's not going to play him in the position that he was bought to play in, and
They're killing him.
they are killing him. You can every single game that goes by. I mean, I know he's injured now, but you could see that little light inside of him just dying a little bit more.
Oh,
Here's a stat. Basically, if you apply the rules of financial fair play accountancy, if Arsenal sell Ozil for 29.75 million or more in January, the club will technically record a
make
profit on him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
So-
mental, isn't it? Yeah,
just worked it out in my head, didn't I? Yeah.
Hey, look
skills,
at you.
skills.
Oh, he's
That's
not
why
just,
he's the best in the biz.
he's not just a Tinder warrior.
I haven't been on Tinder in a little while, actually. So
Not since the situation in the ban. Trumped
there was
up charges.
There was a good sub question from Akib actually, which links nicely to that one, which was
Akib.
about the story. He's at Akib alias, by the way,
And he's a good follow.
friend of the pod.
Yep.
He said the
Saying that,
question.
I'm not sure I follow him, so I better take that back.
You
just in case
better
I
do that.
don't.
Anyway, he said, "What do you think of the story by the Metro in brackets? He's put cunts about Alexis and Mesut
That's
falling
actually on my list.
out." Well, there you go. I've
That
sort of
is,
stolen your thunder. I do apologise.
Oh no, it isn't. No, it's someone else has asked it.
Okay,
before
well, I don't
before anybody
apologise.
answers, I need to find out who else asked it. I think it was Les. Plastic Spam asked it
Plastic
because he
Spam.
actually put W star is the Metro just wank? I think he meant.
Yes, and top man Les, by the way.
Yeah.
So I think it's a load of balls. Does anyone think any different? I think Metro generally have a bit of a habit of making up. I think we got another thing to bring up about what they've brought out this week, but they generally report stuff that's either whispered in the wind and float downstream, or stuff they might have heard. They might have heard this, might have heard that. I mean, your professional football club players are going to have differences of opinions. They're going to have situations where everything doesn't sort of go according to plan, and in some circumstances, Lee Bowyer and Kieran Dyer, they're going to have, fisticuffs on the pitch. So it's a professional sport. Even at the very, very shittest and lowest jobs in the world, you're going to have disagreements with people who you work in an office with. So I think it's completely normal for these players maybe to have a quote falling out, but I'm 99% sure that would have absolutely no influence on pitch performance. Look at Andy Cole and Teddy Sheringham, was it? They couldn't stand each other.
No, they couldn't. It wasn't Les that asked the question. Les asked something different about Paul Clement. It was, I think, Solo Guna's got it here that you mentioned that Ozil is expected to leave the club. So it's Solo Guna.
Yeah, cool. But yeah, that's my 5 pence worth.
Oh,
Okay.
well, I don't know. Gim, what do you think?
Have we exhausted all of our questions?
God, I've got loads more.
I don't know. To go back, I don't think he's going to leave.
No.
Metro. We've had someone on this show before that works for Metro, and pretty much, I'm not going to say that he said this, but we got the impression that Metro was more of a "we'll say anything we want to say," as long as it can bring traffic and clicks to our website, which is where we'll make our money. So,
much like the Express make up every single story ever, so then they
Daily
can
Mail.
go, we got it right, because we said all of the stories.
literally, it wouldn't surprise me if Metro came out with tomorrow that Lionel Messi was interested in a move to Bolton.
Yup.
Yup. Who wouldn't want to play for Neil Lennon, though?
Oh, me. Ginger, any. No offence, Kim, sorry.
Fuck off! I'm not Ginger.
Whatever.
You're
I'm not
Baldy.
how
Baldy
dare you?
bastard.
Told
Behave.
you.
Right, are we done here?
No, there's got more questions. I've got one from. I'll read the questions, and then one of you can answer one question
Fucking
each.
get on with it then.
Enigmatic Gooner says, thoughts of Wellington Silva news. Do you feel he could play a big role in Arsenal's future? I don't know what the news is. Do any
I'll
of you
take
know?
that one.
Go
I'll take
on.
that one. It's that
No.
he's got his permit. And no, because he's shit.
Okay, well, that's that one done. Mad Rambo says, is BFG's current form a concern, or is he past it, or does Cos need a new partner at centre-back? Anybody want that?
I'll have a go if you like.
Go on then.
No, Per isn't past it. People have to remember that he is the wrong side. Is he the wrong side of 30? He's certainly creeping
I
up
think
that
he's
way.
29.
29. He's never had
31.
pace. He's never had pace, and I think people are too quick to criticise that when he does get done by a couple of goals that involve pace, they'll go, "Oh, well, he's finished." Well, he never had pace in the first place. He does look like a little bit of a lost lamb without Koscielny, because the two dovetail very nicely, and I think Koz's problems with his Achilles has really hampered his game this year, and I don't think it's allowed him to be able to provide the cover that the Mertesacker needed necessarily. I think Koz has lost that sort of half a yard of pace with this injury, so hopefully when he's properly rested, and I would rather that Koz missed another 6 weeks and came back fully fit than us race him back and him break down again, because this is a lad that in my opinion could captain the club one day. I think he's that good, but he does need it's just an opinion, it might not be a right one, but in my view, but I think he does need a player like Mertesacker alongside him. So I don't think he's finished. I think he just needs that. He needs his partner back, and also I think we've changed the defence. If you look at the whole right, left, and centre backs, I think we've changed the defence about 8 times already this season. I don't care if you're the best defender in the world. That's going to affect your game if you're having different partners every week.
Plus, Chesney's had a shit
He wants
season.
Cos back.
Yeah.
He wants Cos back for good.
Per was 30 a month ago. Right,
there you go.
next question. I think this one is from East Stan. Oh, he's trying to trip me up there. Do you think the onset of dementia is to blame for Wenger's lopsided squad? Don't even need to answer that, do we? Yeah, Tell the Gooner says, why is nobody questioning Santi's performances have fallen off of a cliff? Is he immune to flack and from the fans and gets an easy ride? And then, friend of the pod, Norwegian Kris says, players are bulletproof for a short period, maybe a season, then we turn on them emphatically. TV5 Jack Ozil. Andrew, what do you think to that? Why isn't Santi getting more grief for his inability to remember that he's playing football, not NFL, with his 400-yard field goals?
I mean, Santi's shooting isn't great, and it never particularly has been great at Arsenal. I know in his first season maybe he scored a few good goals, but last season his shooting was awful. I think we need to cut. For me, we need to. I'm a huge advocate of Santi Cazorla, and actually we talk about Mesut Ozil being played out of position and messed around. I think Santi Cazorla's far more messed around than Ozil. When he came to Arsenal, he had an absolute wealth of crap around him. He had players like Gervinho running off, running into himself, and Cazorla was playing lovely through balls. Giroud was, finding his feet in the Premier League. And Santi was very much, for me, the reason why we even got top 4 that year, because of his roles in the number 10 role.
And he had the free role to play wherever he wanted on the pitch.
Precisely, yeah. And then when Ozil came, we kind of just tanned Cazorla off, out onto the left, onto the right, onto the bench. He went from being very much a superstar of the team and the hero of the first season to becoming this kind of winger, come almost bit part player. And this is one of the guys who we really relied on. So I don't think it is easy for him to continuously keep his form up when he's being, messed around. And I think we accommodate players far more into the team and squad than we do Santi. and not necessarily, because of their talent. I think, if we did it on merit, Santi would get a lot more cracks at the whip in the areas he wants to play. I think he's so composed on the ball. He has such a high quality level of skill, passing, movement. He can turn on a sixpence quite literally. And we need those kind of players. So I think if you are gonna defend Mesut Özil because of him being moved out of position, you can't then go and lambast Santi, who I think is far more messed around. And I think with Ozil now being injured, we're going to see Kaffola being a little bit more instrumental in the game. I do appreciate the sentiments that his, as I said earlier, his shooting is about as wayward as Davis trying to pick up in a nightclub.
Was that with or without flip flops?
Oh, Jesus, but either.
Just to back up your point, poor old Santi this season has played 8 Premier League games. Of those 8 games, he's played 6 times for more than 45 minutes. Left wing, attacking midfield. Left wing, right midfield, attacking midfield. So there you go.
Poor old Santi Cazorla.
Yeah, he gets rotated. He does get rotated around a lot, and he's a player of genuine ability. So yeah, I mean, okay, maybe the question itself is kind of loaded with negativity in the sense that why are certain players not getting abuse or flack? Well, I mean, you don't. For me, the question shouldn't always be why is he not getting flack, because that shouldn't just always be the mentality. If someone's not particularly always playing well, we should have to give them flack. I mean, for me, the reality is, his the kind of, I guess, the continuity in his performances are going to be heavily affected by the decisions the management make to continuously play him, in different positions. But I think he's one of our, most naturally gifted players. And in time, in the number 10 role, if he continues to play there whilst Ozil's out, I think he's going to, start to become even more instrumental.
Okay, right. Final question. I want a yes/no from all of you. Con O'Brien, it is longer than Con, but I couldn't pronounce it, so I just cut it and deleted it. Con O'Brien says, should Walcott start at the weekend, and does this mean the end of Joel Campbell? Will he ever make the bench? Gimli. He's on mute. Excellent. Anyone
I am
got
here.
Any plans for the... Oh, hello.
Yes.
I was going to see if anyone there's any plans for the holidays weekend.
No, I can answer your question by simply saying
nice.
no, because I don't believe he's fit enough to start a game yet. He should be worked in, say, around the 69th, 70th minute, brought on as a sub.
Oh, well, there you go then. Kris?
Same answer. No, I don't think we'll see the best of Theo. I think people need to give him at the very least, until mid-January, because it's not just a question of finding fitness coming off the bench. It's a question of finding match sharpness and getting used to contact again, just like it did with Aaron Ramsey. So no. And as the second part of that question, I actually do think we'll see a bit more of Joel Campbell, but I think it might be the Christmas period that we'll probably start to see him, because
Panto,
yeah. For 2 reasons, really. One, because I think we'll need the squad, because we're bound to get more injuries, and obviously it's a busy period of time. And 2, because we're about to enter another transfer window. So he'll need to get minutes on the pitch for us to get any sort of resale value, which is probably, sadly, where he's going to end up.
And Andrew, can you answer this in under an hour?
Sorry.
No, because Andrew's gone on and told his life story for the last 2. It'd be great if you could do yes or no.
Sorry. Theo Walcott, yeah, he'll come good. Yeah, we should play Joel Campbell more.
Also, do you think with Theo will start at the weekend? I don't.
Probably not. No, he shouldn't. I don't think so.
Oh, there you go.
Okay.
Well, there you go. I think it's Gimli. Should give it all back to you now.
Fantastic.
Should we shoot more?
Should we shoot
Should we
more?
play a goalkeeper?
Right, next up, I'm asking for predictions in our world-famous Predictions League. This game is Burnley at home. So, Danny?
Oh, dear. Well, if I talk quite slowly, like when someone's coming up to the ad break for the radio, then you won't know that I'm just going to go and have a look at the Predictions League and then see what the positions are on the Predictions League that we all predict in. And in first place is the listeners of 18 points, FK 15, Raj with 14, Little Mr. Ginger Gimli,
Yes!
Ginger, 12
Absolutely
points.
fat bastard.
Chris with 10 points. Jeff and Dom with 9 points. Me and Jason are 7 points. Andrew on 6. And Kate's got 2, but there again, she's only just done 1 pod. I mean,
You,
one
you and
pod,
Jason are
two.
like the ones that they hang around in the club right at the end for all the mingers.
Jason's his predictions are so predictable. Every single time it's whatever score, Ramsey to score. What do you think to
Or,
that, Jason? Why do you keep picking Ramsey?
or
Oh,
Sanchez.
he's just such a talent, isn't he, boys? I mean, come on. The kid's got it all, and he's a fucking superstar.
And what do you think of Andrew then, Jason?
Right, top bloke he is, top bloke. Fucking brilliant he is. I wish I could pick up babes like he could.
It's not, is it? Because he doesn't say the C word enough.
Yeah, been rumbled. It's that education of in the prospect you can't even say
So
the spelling.
right, come on,
Yes.
let's get this shit
Predictions.
done. Predictions, Danny. The score will
I
be
am going to say 4-1 to Arsenal, and the first goal scorer is going to be Podolski.
Chris.
I think the magic of Carpenter is going to rub off all over Arsenal's back. As an image, 3-0, and I will go for. I'll go Welbeck.
Okay, Andrew.
2-0 Sonogo.
Okay, I'm going 3-0, and I've had a little listen about what Chris has got to say about Sanchez and him not playing at the weekend. So I'm going 3-0 Alexis Sanchez.
I like
And
it. See what you did there.
thank you very much. So we're going to do some shout-outs now, and we'll go back to front and go Andrew first.
So my shout out this week is going to be for Kelly Maher. We shout her out a fair bit, but she is great interaction. Loves the pod. Top lady, and always very polite. So this one's for you, Kelly.
She's a bit of a cheeky monkey as well.
Yeah,
Grrr.
You should see her DMs.
Yeah, you stole my thunder there, Andrew. I was actually going to give R. Kelly a shout as well.
Piss
I'm,
off.
I'm reliably informed, as she's now told me, her surname is pronounced Ma. So there we go. We've learnt something there.
Oh, see, I don't DM with all the listeners. I just tweet them like normal human
well.
beings.
We've had many a conversation, but she is lovely. Instead of that, then, instead of Kelly, I will give mine to a man who speaks a lot of sense, and I've started chatting to him recently, but I apologise, I'm going to butcher his name, so I'm really sorry. On Twitter, he's that guy Welbs. His Twitter handle is at here we go, Jahanzeb_Shaheen.
Oh, Gary.
We'll call him Gary. It's JHANZEB_SHAHEEN. He just talked a lot of sense, and we had a very good natter about European footballers and players Arsenal should buy. So he talks a lot of sense. He's a good chap. So give him a follow.
No.
Still got it. Oh, Danny.
Oh dear. Right, I said on the podcast account, if you've not had a shout before, send me a tweet to my own account to make me smile. And it's just every twat that I'd ever shouted out just sent me a tweet. I say I'm not including the lovely thingy bob. What's her name? The red hair. Indy. She's not included in the group of twats because she might find out where I live and kill me. So the person who made me laugh was TH14, which is at NS Arsenal, and he tweeted me Tottenham. And that's always bound to get a laugh. Well done, sir.
Okay, and my shout out this week goes to at Barca Matchworn. Really
Again?
nice. Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Is he moving in or something?
No.
Chris did him the other week.
Rather move him in than you.
Yeah, they've been over moving with me.
You horrible fat tosser.
No, how dare you? I tell my mum she'd come around and punch you in the knee. Actually, she's your height. She's 4'11". Be a fair fight for once.
It would be. I'll still punch you. So, that was a Bergkamp Wonderland podcast. Thank you very much for listening. And keep it Arsenal. Goodbye.
No, cheeky monkeys. Night, Jason.
Cheerio, boyos. Thanks for having me again, mate.
What are we, Jason?
Bunch of fucking cunts, you English fannies.
Orders from people. And then they'd obviously ring up and say, "Where's my food?" And he said, "I'll just keep taking orders and keep taking orders, pretending I'm a Chinese takeaway." Just thought maybe
I'm
you should
gonna
try
do-
that. Just
I'm
take an
gonna-
order for a kitchen.
I'm gonna do that next time, and then there's gonna be these poor fuckers there 6 weeks down the line. Where's my kitchen? Oh, we got your kitchen. No. Are you
Exactly.
are you a kitchen company? No.
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 Get 'em to
I'm
send
gonna
you a check.
fucking do it. I'm gonna do it next time.
And you can open a business account with A&A Kitchens with a check. If the business is defunct, get them to send you a check. Away you go.
I'm gonna say we've got our today's special is tartan paint.
And left-handed screwdrivers.